Weight cutting, weight cutting, weight cutting. The story of mixed martial arts. The ongoing debate on if weight cutting should be allowed, the problems with it, the benefits of it, the whole nine. So let's talk about some weight cutting, why don't we?
Yeah. So, Tyler, the thing that sparked this in my head was I just watched an interview with Chatri, the president or CEO of One Championship, right? And for those of you that don't know, they have all their weight classes are bumped up because they do what's called the hydration test, right? So they test your body. You have to weigh in on the scale, and then they test your body to see if you have the right amount of water. And I think that's really interesting because, first of all, like we're human beings, right? We're made of water. Like water's the most important thing, period.
Yeah.
And if everybody's constantly sucking all the water out of their bodies just to hit the right number on the scale, it's like, well, what is that actually doing to you, right? And Chatri had some really good points. So first of all their guys are hydrated, right? So that means, for one, they don't have to spend the last however many weeks of their fight camp worrying about getting off those last 10 pounds of water to make the proper weight. If you can't make that weight while being hydrated, you automatically get bumped up to the next weight class. I kind of like that. I think it's kind of cool, right? Because, like, for real, what kind of damages are you doing to your body sucking out all that water? A finer point, an example that we just saw over last weekend, Ryan Garcia fighting Tank Davis. He got hit to the body and he couldn't return. He took a knee and he was sitting there and you could tell he kind of like really wanted to get up, man, but his body was just turned off. I heard some rumblings that like maybe he was hurt to the body during his camp. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But I'm telling you right now, he wasn't allowed to rehydrate. That was part of the clause, right? Your liver, if it's not properly hydrated,
So
it is going to shut down when it's been traumatized. You know what I mean? So I just, I think Chatri is onto something. What do you feel about this?
I'm in complete agreement with it. I think if you look back on all these weight cuts and some of the worst weight cuts that have ever happened in all mixed martial arts, you have people collapsing on the scale trying to make a weight where they should not be fighting. Like, they should not be fighting in a little over 24 hours after just collapsing on the scale trying to make a weight with zero water in their body, no hydration, no food. They don't eat for days before that weight cut, and they're cutting water with no food in their body already. I think it's a great idea to have these hydration clauses in and fight at your natural weight or whatever weight you want. You can make the weight and be hydrated at. I think it overall benefits the fighter's health, the fighter's performance, and entertainment. Just because if you're hydrated, you're naturally going to perform better than if you're not hydrated. That's simple human anatomy, human physics functioning. It's just, I think all these points you brought up, I think weight cutting should be negated as much as it can be. A few pounds isn't a big deal, but when you cut a few pounds throughout a whole camp and then cut 10 plus pounds of water in 1 week, you're just damaging yourself long term and not giving yourself the best opportunity to win.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, like, it's almost like borderline cheating. It's like you cut out all the weight and then it's like so you could bully a smaller guy. You know what I mean? Some of these guys that we've seen, like trying to think of an example,
Connor.
Hamzat. Hamzat with Connor, sure. Back in the day, Connor at 45, he was gigantic. His reach, he could hit you from all the way across the
Looked
ring.
like
He's
a
definitely
zombie
not
on weigh-in.
right. Yeah, and then he comes in the next day 10, 15, 20 pounds heavier in the ring. So it's like, it's kind of weird. And also, I think a point to be brought up is when you look at some of the guys that do fight in their more natural weight classes, I'll use Colby Covington as an example. Colby never really cuts a lot of weight. I mean, he'll get into fight shape, and that brings him to the weight that he's fighting at. And look at his gas tank. The guy never gets tired. Like, he doesn't get tired. He's been rocked. Like Usman rocked him, and he's been hurt, but that's the fight game. He's never been completely knocked out cold, which is what you see from a lot of these guys when their brains are dehydrated. You know what I mean? I think a lot of these guys would do better than they think, even if they're a little bit smaller in the frame. I think if they went up in weight, they would do a little bit better. We've seen over the course, the last 10, 20, 30 years, the smaller guy going up in weight is very, very dangerous. Everybody has this notion that, like, the biggest guy is the scariest guy. But look at Volk and Islam.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Volk went up there and it was extremely competitive. We've seen a ton of guys move up in weight and do just fine being the smaller guys. It's not like they're getting leveled just because their frames are a little bit small. You talk about, look at John Jones. He's about to, like, wreck the entire heavyweight division. And a lot of people would argue that he didn't really need to go away and gain 40 pounds to do that. Like, he just looks like he didn't cut weight. And I'll say this, from personal experience, look, the older you get, the harder the weight comes off. Sometimes it's just easier to get yourself in shape than it is to cut weight.
There's a difference. For sure, big difference in that.
Yeah, Chael Sonnen talks about this all the time too. I don't know if you watch Uncle Chael's channel, but he's always talking. He's like, if you're not man enough to go fight the guy that's bigger than you, then you don't belong in this sport in the first place. Just go fight the bigger guy. You're gonna go in. You just had a steak last night. He had lettuce and water. What did Connor say? You've seen me on the salads. Now you see me on the steaks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, wait, it's not going to change unless there's a large backlash at it, or if we see someone get seriously damaged from a weight cut. I think that's the only way you can get it to change. And unfortunately, someone might have to take the sacrifice, but you don't want to see that. So why not do that, change it before someone does get seriously injured? Because as people get better, as people get bigger, more talented, people are just going to want to cut more and more weight to have a better advantage. And it's probably not going to end very well for somebody if that keeps happening.
You can only do that to your body so many times, and you could argue that a lot of the knockouts that we've seen could have been due to bad weight cuts.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got to do it right. Like, that's the whole thing too. Like, I could hear my coach in the back of my head, like, stop being fat and lazy and you won't have to worry about cutting all the water. But, when the problem is everybody does it, right? It's not like as if you're the only guy. Everybody's coming down. So if you don't, you're going to be the smaller guy. I think people just have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And if everybody did it, that's the thing too. If everybody was forced to fight at their natural in fight shape weight, then everybody with similar frames is going to be in the same weight class anyway. Everybody just needs to go up one weight class. That's essentially what they did at one, and it seems like it's working for them. The guys fight way better. The finish rate is insane over there. It's like 80%. And I think you'll get better fights. You'll get healthier fighters, and
less long-term
water
damage.
is life, baby.
Yeah.
Minnie Wakoni, water is life.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Hopefully a change is made. I don't know how or where that's going to come from. Hopefully One Championship is the pioneers of this no weight cutting movement, but we'll see what happens with everybody else. I don't know. What are other options besides weight cutting and fighting at your natural weight? Are you going to lose? You think you're going to lose more? Is that the fear? You're just going to lose because of strength, or are you going to lose because the guy was more talented? I guess that's the question, but we don't know that answer.
That's exactly the question. You're going to have to be look, like Chael said, if you're afraid of the guy because he's a little bit bigger than you, then you're kind of in the wrong sport. You know, martial arts is about technique at the end of the day. Of course, there's grit. Of course, there's determination, heart, all those things. Of course, there's, you know, strength,
Yep.
you know, flexibility. All these things play a factor. But you should be putting your skills against their skills. And a couple, and let's be honest, this is the other thing. 10 pounds, 5 pounds, 20 pounds. What are we talking
Yeah.
about? That's nothing. That's nothing. Your grocery bags weighs 5 pounds. Like, that's the difference.
And we're not talking, it's not going to end up being a flyweight versus a heavyweight. Obviously, there's a big size discrepancy there. You're going up one weight class to fight at a weight that's 10 pounds, maybe 15 pounds. But at the end of the day, if you're both at that weight, it's not going to make a huge difference. Besides the guy that works harder and gets stronger and has better technique and knows the sport better, that guy's going to win, not the guy who's purely stronger. We've seen it on the street in street fights. Little guys beating up on huge guys because they know technique and they know what they're doing. So I think you should just fight at your natural weight. But who am I?
Yeah, I mean, and look at heavyweights too, right? And it's anywhere from 205 all the way to 265. So you might be a 225-pound heavyweight. Granted, most of those guys would cut to 205, but maybe you can't. Maybe you walk around, maybe you are in great shape and you're 230 pounds. Well, you got to fight some guy who cut weight to make 265. So they do it in that division. Do it everywhere else. You might have to fight the bigger guy. It is what it is.
Hey, some people aren't willing to take that risk, but at the end of the day, it could all be changed if we changed some weight cutting rules and made rehydration clauses. I would like to see it. I think it would be better fights. I think it'd be more entertaining, but we're not the ones to make that decision. So hopefully someone at the top comes and makes that decision for us.
What do you people think about weight cutting? Put your answer in the comments.
Everybody nowadays has their opinion on weight cutting, so I would like to hear some opinions and maybe something differing from our opinions or what you would do, and we'll see, because everybody's got their own opinion nowadays. So I'd like to see some new, fresh ideas. So comment your opinions down below.
Excuse me.
That's our weight cutting discussion. I mean, we could keep talking about it, and we'll probably talk about it again in the future when someone almost dies on the scale, because that happens way too often, which should probably stop. But that's our weight cutting discussion. Like, comment, subscribe, as always. Let us know what you think about weight cutting, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.